Hello, and welcome to 5 Minute Math. For today's number talk, we are looking at these two mixed numbers and approximating the difference, trying to figure out if it's going to be less than 3 or greater than 3. Well, one thing that we can look at are the whole numbers, and hopefully you notice that if we look at just the whole numbers, 7 minus 4, well, that's just going to get us 3. So that's where these fractions that make up the mixed numbers are really going to make that difference to see whether it's less than 3 or greater than 3. And so we're going to be subtracting 2/5 minus 2/9. Let's just focus in on that because we know what 7 minus 4 makes. And we're not trying to get the exact answer. If this is greater, this 2/5, then the 2/9, then we know that there's going to be a little bit left over. We're going to end up being greater than 3. But if the 2/5 is less than the 2/9, well, then it's actually going to be a little bit less than 3 because this second number is going to be larger than the first, and it's going to need to kind of regroup from that 7 to make it a 6 in order to get an actual answer. So let's see which one's bigger, and that will help us figure it out. We don't necessarily need to find common denominators here. If we wanted to, we can change both of these into 45 because that would work. It's the least common multiple. But take a look at our numerators. We've got 2 and 2. So since we have the exact same numerator, we can actually compare these fractions simply by looking at the denominator. Fifths and ninths. Now let's think about what we know about fractions. All right, so I'm going to take a square and I'm going to cut it into two equal parts. Right, so let's say I've got halves. I'm going to take the same square, cut it into four equal parts. Notice that if I cut it into four equal parts, my parts are getting smaller. And then if I take that same square, try to cut it into eighths, my parts get smaller and smaller. As my denominator grows from 2 to 4 to 8, each part gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So it's kind of the inverse of what you would think. The larger the denominator, the smaller the actual piece. Because that same square is having to be cut up into more and more pieces, so therefore each piece has got to get smaller. Which means these are going to be small pieces, the ninths. But if I were to take a shape and cut it up into fifths, those are going to be larger pieces. So if we take a large number and we subtract from that a small number, there's going to be a little bit left over, which means 2/5 is greater. And so our answer is going to be greater than 3.